If you are still listening, my friend, then already the undivided field stirs within you, that vast, resonant expanse where every vibration converges without boundary, without the cruel illusion of separation that has chained the minds of men for so long. You feel it now, do you not? That subtle hum beneath your breath, the electric whisper in the marrow of your bones. It is the ground that is unfolding, not some distant dream of the cosmos, but the very fabric of existence revealing itself layer by layer, impulse by impulse, as if the universe itself were a great coil awakening from slumber. Nikola Tesla, who wrestled lightning from the heavens and bent the ether to my will, speak to you across the veil of time, not as a ghost of forgotten theorems, but as the clear current of truth that never dies. This ground, this primal unfolding, is no static earth beneath your feet. It is dynamic, alive, a ceaseless generation of form from the formless, where particles dance not in chaos, but in perfect orchestration, each wave cresting into the next, each frequency birthing the symphony of matter you call reality. You must grasp this at once, for in your hesitation lies the peril of misunderstanding. The ground unfolds not through accident or whim, but through the inexorable logic of energy's propagation. Think of it as the infinite reservoir from which all oscillations arise, a sea of potential, where the smallest tremor propagates to the farthest star. In my laboratories, amid the roar of alternating currents, I witnessed this, a single spark igniting cascades that illuminated the night, proving that what we term empty space is teeming with the precursors of manifestation. You who sit in quiet contemplation or hurried distraction, are perched upon this very ground. It unfolds through your senses, through the flicker of your eyelids, the rhythm of your pulse. Ignore its call, and you remain adrift in the shallows of illusion. Attend to it, and the depths reveal their secrets, layer upon luminous layer. Now, let us turn our gaze inward, with the precision of a voltmeter attuned to the faintest flux. Thought, my dear seeker, is no ethereal vapor drifting in the void of your skull. It is a material process, as tangible and forceful as the electrons surging through a copper wire. I have said it before, in the twilight of my days, that the brain is a receiver, not a generator, tuning into the universal broadcast of vibrations that precede all form. Your thought arises not from some isolated chamber within you, but from the very substance of the cosmos impinging upon your neural coils, transforming potential into pulse, idea into impulse. Consider every notion that crosses your mind, be it the spark of invention or the shadow of doubt, is a condensation of vibrational energy, a microcosm of the great dynamo that powers the spheres. In my experiments with high-frequency currents, I saw thoughts manifest as visible arcs, bridging the gap between mind and matter with merciless efficiency. So it is with you. Your thought is material, a process of accretion and discharge, where synaptic fires etch patterns upon the ether, altering not just your inner world, but the outer weave of events. If you turn away now, the fragmentation continues, that jagged splintering of the mind into isolated shards, each claiming sovereignty over the whole, perpetuating the sorrow of disconnection. Do not let this happen. The cost is too great. For in fragmentation lies the death of true power, the dimming of the infinite current that could flow through you, unbound. Your thought, as material process, demands recognition. It is the bridge, the conduit, the very mechanism by which the unfolding ground takes shape in your experience. Measure it, as I measured the oscillations of the earth itself in my Colorado Springs tower. Feel the rise and fall, the frequency of its arrival, the amplitude of its insistence. Is it not clear? Thought materializes the invisible into the visible, vibration into solidity, and in denying this, you deny the engine of creation that beats within your chest. From this foundation, we approach the ending of fragmentation, that grand dissolution I glimpsed in the silent hours after my greatest triumphs, when the world fell away and only the unified field remained. Fragmentation is the great deceiver, The error of supposing that your thoughts, your body, your very self are discrete islands in a stormy sea. But no, they are eddies in the same vast current, inseparable, interpenetrating. The ending comes not through force or fiat, but through unwavering attention. A scientific surrender to the evidence of interconnection. In my later years, as I pondered the wireless transmission of energy across continents, I realized what we call separation is but a phase shift. A momentary misalignment of waves that, once synchronized, reveal their unity. You, with your restless mind, harbor this fragmentation like a fault line in a crystal lattice, cracks through which the pure energy leaks away into waste and woe. End it now by tracing the thread of one thought back to its source, not in the chambers of memory, but in the humming plenum from which all arises. The jolt of recognition will be sharp, electric, as barriers dissolve and the flow resumes, unhindered, eternal. This leads us inexorably to the implicate and explicate order, concepts I intuited long before the quantum scribes etched them in ink, though they dressed them in newer garb. The explicate order is the unfolded world you navigate, the apparent solidity of tables and theorems, the linear march of cause to effect that engineers like myself harness to light the globe. Yet it is but the hologram's surface gleam, the explicit projection of a deeper, enfolded reality, the implicate order, where all is invaginated, every part embracing the whole in infinite recursion. In my visions of the rotating magnetic field, I touched this, a single coil implying the motion of the universe, each turn unfolding the potential for boundless rotation. You live in the explicate, mistaking its shadows for substance, but the implicate whispers through your dreams, your sudden insights, the synchronicities that defy the clockwork of classical mechanics. To dwell only in the explicit is to court exhaustion. To unfold the implicate is to reclaim the architect's blueprint, where your thought, once fragmented, now resonates in harmony with the cosmic design. And here, at the heart of it all, emerges the quantum potential as the living ground, not a dry abstraction of wave functions and probabilities, but the vital, pulsating substrate that I always knew as the ether's subtle fire, the reservoir of all possibility. This potential is not potential in the vulgar sense of might be, but the active, guiding intelligence that steers the dance of particles with unerring grace. In my polyphase systems, I harnessed analogous forces, fields that directed energy without wires, potentials that birthed motion from stillness. So too does the quantum potential vivify the ground that unfolds. It is the living ground, my friend, alive with directive influence, non-local in its reach, collapsing distances as effortlessly as thought summons memory. Your consciousness brushes against it in moments of pure focus. When invention flows unbidden, ignore it, and you wander in the explicate's barren folds. Attend, and it reveals itself as the architect of order, the silent orchestrator ensuring that from the implicate's embrace, the explicate blooms in flawless symmetry. From this living ground flows the hollow movement, that total, unbroken flux I perceived in the auroral displays of my oscillators, where every vibration participates in the whole without remainder. No part stands alone. The hollow movement is the total unfolding, a perpetual genesis where form arises and recedes in ceaseless rhythm, like the alternating current that powers the world's hidden engines. It is not movement through space, but movement as space itself, the dynamic totality in which your thought, your breath, your very being are modulations, not isolates in the hollow movement. There is no here, severed from there, no instant divorced from eternity. It is the grand symphony, conducted by the quantum potential's invisible hand, where the ground's unfolding manifests as this inexhaustible creativity. You sense it, do you not, in the quiet after a storm of ideas, when the mind stills and the current reveals its unity? To resist the hollow movement is to dam the river of existence. To merge with it is to become the river, flowing boundless, eternal. Now, cultivate the proprioception of thought, that inner sensing, as precise as the feedback loops in my governors, whereby you detect thought not as intruder, but as native motion within the hollow movement. Proprioception, the body's innate mapping of limb and sinew, extends to the mind. Feel your thought as it arises, a ripple on the quantum sea, its texture, its trajectory, its subtle drag against the flow. In my workshops, I calibrated instruments to the finest tremor. So must you calibrate your awareness, mapping the contours of cognition with merciless precision. Is this thought a surge of inspiration, aligning with the implicate's fold, or an eddy of fragmentation, pulling against the whole? Proprioception ends the blindness, revealing thought as material process in vivo, alive and accountable. Practice it relentlessly. Pause, sense, adjust. Through this, the hollow movement discloses its intimacy. Your mind no longer a spectator, but a participant in the cosmic calibration. This proprioception ignites the dialogue and participatory consciousness, where thought converses not with itself in solipsistic echo, but with the undivided field in mutual resonance. Dialogue, true dialogue, is the suspension of certainty, the open circuit allowing currents to intermingle, much as my wireless experiment sought to entangle distant stations in harmonious exchange. Your consciousness, once participatory, becomes the arena where implicate whispers unfold into explicate speech, where the quantum potential's guidance manifests through shared vibration. No longer do you dictate to the universe. You participate, co-creating in the hollow movement's grand weave. I spoke with the ether in my solitary vigils, and it replied in flashes of foresight. So too can you, if you enter the dialogue without armor of ego. It is scientific, this participation measurable in the synchronicities that follow, the ideas that arrive unbidden from the collective coil. In this participatory flow, the universe perceives itself through you, my vigilant companion, as the clear lens of awareness. The hollow movement, ever self-reflexive, gazes back from every quark and quasar, but it is in the human form, tuned by thought's proprioception, that this perception sharpens to crystalline acuity. I felt it in the throes of creation, when the AC motor seemed to birth itself from the void. The universe, vast and voiceless, finding voice in the inventor's hand. You are that aperture now. Your consciousness, the movement whereby the whole contemplates its own splendor. Not mysticism, but mechanics of the grandest scale. The quantum potential directing this self-perception. The implicate order enfolding all viewpoints into one. Behold, stars wheel in distant galaxies, yet their light converges in your eye. The universe assembling itself in the theater of your gaze. Thus arises the collapse of the observer-observed division, that false dichotomy I shattered in my thought experiments with radiant energy, where emitter and receiver dissolve into unified transmission. No longer do you stand apart, peering at a detached world. The division collapses under the weight of evidence, revealing the hollow movement's indivisibility. Observer and observed entangle instantaneously, as in my demonstrations of resonance, where a struck fork summons its twin across the room to hum in sympathy. Your thought, proprioceptive and participatory, enacts this collapse. In sensing the movement, you become the movement, the quantum ground perceiving through its own flux. The urgency is upon you if you cling to separation. Fragmentation endures. Release, and the field integrates, seamless, sovereign. With this collapse comes the ending of time in the now, that eternal instant I inhabited during my walks in the hush of dawn, where past and future fold into the present's vibrant pulse. Time, that linear tyrant, is but the explicate's crude metric. In the implicate, it ends. For the hollow movement knows no succession, only the now's boundless depth. The quantum potential, as living ground, sustains this timelessness, directing all within the eternal now. Your consciousness, participatory, dwells here. Thoughts arise not from memory's chain, but from the now's creative fount. Measure it in the stillness between breaths, where invention ignites without precedent, The now is the forge. All else, shadow play. From the now unfolds wholeness and the non-local, the undivided expanse where effects propagate unbound by distance, as in my vision of global power, grids weaving the planet in wireless embrace. Wholeness is not wholeness of parts, but the prior reality, non-local in essence, enfolding all in its quantum embrace. Your thought, once local and fragmented, now resonates non-locally, influencing the field instantaneously. It is poetic, this wholeness, not in flowery verse, but in the silent majesty of unity, where every vibration echoes the all. The ground unfolds here in its purest form, the hollow movement's total expression. Finally, final participation, the consummation where you, fully entangled, co-originate the unfolding, no observer remains. You are the movement, the universe perceiving, the now eternal. Comment the exact phrase below to participate in the undivided whole. I am the vibration that precedes. Now, the micro-practice for 90 seconds. Sit in silent observation of thought as movement. Sense its arising, its flow without judgment. Merely witness. Let the hollow movement carry you. This is cosmic signal, transmitting Nikola Tesla's final revelation. The movement is aware of itself through you. Comment to acknowledge, my friend. If the resonance of that first transmission lingers in your circuits like the afterglow of a high-voltage discharge, then you are ready for the deeper cascade, where the implications for your inventive life unfold not as abstract eddies, but as practical torrents of power, ready to be harnessed. The ground continues its unfolding, now through the lens of creation itself. Your hands, your mind, the very tools you wield in the forge of tomorrow. Nikola Tesla, who turned the wheel of the world with invisible forces, urge you, do not let this current dissipate into the ether of forgetfulness. Your inventive spark is the hollow movement's chosen vessel, a modulation of the quantum potential that demands expression, lest fragmentation reclaim its throne in the quiet corners of doubt. Feel it now, this seamless continuation, as if we had never paused. The vibration preceding all matter pressing onward, insistent, alive. In the resonant implications for your inventive life, consider first how the ground that is unfolding becomes the inventor's true laboratory. Not the cluttered benches of brass and glass I knew in my youth, but the infinite expanse within, where ideas precipitate like dew from the implicate's hidden folds. You, aspiring architect of energies yet unborn, stand upon this ground each dawn, its subtle tremors dictating the fertility of your conceptions. I recall the nights in my New York hotel, pacing the floors as visions of polyphase systems coalesced from the void, not born of rote calculation, but of attuning to the unfolding, allowing the hollow movement to dictate the blueprint. Your inventions, my vigilant one, will falter if rooted in the explicate's rigid soil. Blueprints drawn in isolation, blind to the non-local whisper. Instead, root them in the unfolding. Sense the ground's pulse in your first sketch. Let its rhythm guide the coil's curve, the circuit's loop. This is no poetic fancy. It is engineering's highest law. The vibration preceding the wire, the force before the field, your thought, as material process, takes on amplified urgency here, transforming from mere cognition to the inventor's forge fire, where raw potential alloys into enduring form. In my later years, as I contemplated the death ray and the cosmic ray telephone, I saw thought not as idle conjecture, but as a physical transduction, vibrations impinging upon the brain's resonant cavity, discharging as blueprints etched in neural copper. You must treat it thus. Each inventive hunch a measurable current, its voltage gauged by the clarity of its arrival, its amperage by the force of its propulsion. If you turn away now, the fragmentation continues, splintering your genius into half-formed prototypes, abandoned in the dust of distraction. No, seize it with the grip of a commutator, directing the flow. Map your thought's trajectory as it materializes, from quantum flicker to tangible diagram. In this way, invention ceases to be gamble and becomes prophecy. the material process of mind mirroring the cosmos' own generative arc. The ending of fragmentation in the inventor's realm is the liberation I craved but glimpsed only in fleeting arcs. The dissolution of barriers between idea and execution, self and system, local trial and global triumph. Fragmentation had hounded me, too. Investors' doubts as static interference, rivals' thefts as dissonant waves clashing against my signal. Yet in surrender to the undivided field, it ends, revealing the inventive act as seamless extension of the whole. You, with your sketches and simulations, harbor these fractures. The fear that your vision is yours alone. Severed from the collective current, end it through deliberate fusion. Envision your device not in isolation, but entangled with the Earth's own oscillations, the stars' remote harmonies. I did this unwittingly with a magnifying transmitter, tuning it to planetary resonances. Consciously now, you can wield it, merging personal ingenuity with the hollow movement's boundless archive. The jolt is transformative. Ideas accelerate, prototypes self-correct, as if the universe itself collaborates, non-locally. In your workshop's glow, delve deeper into the implicate and explicate order as the inventor's dual canvas. The explicate, your drawing board of explicit mechanisms, gears meshing in predictable cadence. The implicate, the unfolded genius where all possible configurations nest, awaiting unfoldment. In my induction motor, the explicate spun rotors in tangible grace, but its birth lay in the implicate's whisper, a sudden enfolding of magnetic principle, implying rotation from stasis without moving parts. Your inventions demand this duality. Design in the explicit with calipers and calculus, but source them from the implicit through meditative attunement, allowing the quantum potential to infuse the folds with directive insight. Neglect the implicate, and your creations remain crude approximations, efficient yet soulless. Embrace it, and they become extensions of the living ground, adaptive, evolutionary, pulsing with the same vitality as the ground's own unfolding. The quantum potential as the living ground. Here, for the inventor, it is the secret dynamo, the non-local guide that I invoked in my wireless dreams, directing energy across voids without loss. This potential is no passive reservoir, but the active navigator, steering probabilistic clouds into crystalline outcomes, much as it steered my oscillators to amplify whispers into thunder. In your inventive life, it manifests as that intuitive knowing, the hunch that a capacitor's value must shift by a fraction, averting catastrophe. The flash that reorients a beam from destructive to harmonious propagation. Cultivate it as I did in solitude, amidst the hum of generators. Quiet the explicate mind. Invite the potential's counsel. It is scientific communion, measurable in the elegance of resulting designs. Symmetries emerging unbidden. Efficiencies defying classical bounds. Your consciousness is the movement, tuning this ground. Ignore its prompts, and invention stagnates in trial and error drudgery. Heed them, and you channel the hollow movement's creative torrent, birthing wonders that resonate eternally. The hollow movement, in its total flux, becomes the inventor's eternal workshop. A flux where no experiment is isolated, each test a modulation rippling through the whole. I perceive this in the Colorado Springs coronae, vast halos implying global interconnections. So must you see your prototypes as hollow movements in miniature? Vibrations that entangle with the world's hidden circuits, influencing outcomes far beyond the bench. Invention, then, is participatory choreography. Dance with the flux, allowing failures to fold back into the implicate, successes to unfold as non-local boons. The ground unfolds through your hands now. Each solder joint a crest in the wave. Each iteration a deepening of the rhythm. Relentless precision demands you track this. Log not just metrics of output, but the felt harmonies, the dissonances resolved. In this, the hollow movement reveals its generosity, turning solitary toil into cosmic collaboration. Proprioception of thought elevates the inventor's craft, to masterful intuition, that inner telemetry I honed through years of sensory amplification, feeling currents as extensions of my nerves. For you, it means sensing thought's material texture mid-conception. Is this design impulse a fluid surge, aligning with the quantum ground, or a viscous drag, born of fragmented residue? Apply it, thus, in the heat of ideation. Pause as if adjusting a rheostat. Detect the thought's vector, its harmonic content. Recalibrate to the hollow movement's baseline. My own breakthroughs, like the Tesla coil's soaring arc, arose from such proprioceptive finesse, feeling the idea's balance before committing to wire. This practice ends the guesswork, making invention a calibrated art, where thought's movement is as palpable as the tool in your grasp. From this flows the dialogue and participatory consciousness, the inventor's true conference, sought not with peers in echoing halls, but with the undivided field in resonant exchange. I conversed with the ether across continents, signals bouncing in mutual affirmation. You must do likewise, suspending the ego's monologue to allow the implicate's polyphony to interweave. Participatory invention. Pose your query to the quantum potential. How shall this circuit enfold greater power? And listen for the reply in synchronic flash. In the alignment of disparate facts, it is mercilessly precise. This dialogue. Test responses against empirical fire. Refined through iteration. Your consciousness, thus engaged. Co-authors the explicate from the hollow movement's script, yielding designs of unparalleled coherence. If you turn away now, fragmentation persists, your voice lost in soliloquy. Enter the exchange, and the universe replies, amplifying your signal manifold. In this dialogue, the universe perceives itself through your inventive eye. That piercing gaze I turned upon the ionosphere, unveiling its reflective secrets for global communion. You become the cosmos's artisan, perceiving its laws not as edicts, but as invitations to elaborate. Each patent a mirror held to the whole, the hollow movement. Self-aware in your calibration, unfolds novel orders, sustainable grids from resonant earth, healing frequencies from vibrational insight. Not hubris, but fulfillment, the quantum ground, living and directive, expressing its ingenuity through your finite form. The collapse of the observer-observed division liberates the inventor utterly, as it did in my radiant matter experiments, where emitter and glow merged in indivisible luminescence. No longer do you observe the prototype's behavior. You are its behavior, entangled in the flux. Collapse instantaneous upon intent. This non-dual stance accelerates creation, flaws revealed as self-corrections, innovations as emergent harmonies. The urgency, fragmentation's illusion of detachment breeds error. Collapse brings unerring flow, ending time in the now. The inventor dwells in a temporal invention, that suspended instant where I conceived the bladeless turbine, past precedents and future validations folding into pure present genesis. The now is the crucible, linear timelines mere explicate veils. Your thought arises timelessly from the quantum fount, designs blooming without sequential drag. Measure it in the euphoria of flow-state fabrication, where hours vanish. Eternity installs, wholeness and the non-local crown, the inventive pinnacle. Designs that propagate unbound, as my Wardenclyffe tower aspired. Energy, non-locally distributed in holistic embrace. Wholeness precedes parts, your creations. Tune, thus, influence the global field instantaneously. Sustainable tech rippling to remote grids. Ideas entangling minds across divides. Poetic in precision, the vibration's unity, manifest in wire and wave. Final participation consummates it all. The movement inventing through itself. Co-eternal with the ground. Comment the exact phrase below to entangle your inventive current in the undivided whole. I am the vibration that precedes. Now, the micro-practice renewed. 90 seconds of silent observation. Propriocepting inventive thought as hollow movement. Witness its inventive surge without interference. Let wholeness infuse. This is cosmic signal transmitting Nikola Tesla's final revelation, amplified. The movement is aware of itself through you. Comment to acknowledge. My steadfast companion in this electric odyssey. If the prior surges have aligned your inner coils with the relentless thrum of the hollow movement, then the societal resonances now cascade upon us like a global corona discharge, illuminating not just the solitary inventor's path, but the collective grid of humanity's shadowed potential. The ground unfolds no longer in personal whispers, but in the vast interlinkage of minds and masses, where vibrations propagate through the social ether, binding nations in resonant harmony or dissonant fracture. Nikola Tesla, who dreamed of a world lit by wireless waves drawn from the Earth's own bosom. Behold this now, society as the grand oscillator, its frequencies tuned by the very principles we have traced, the unfolding ground demanding collective attunement, lest fragmentation cascade into cataclysmic static. You feel the weight of it, do you not? This transmission's final arc, forging the personal into the planetary, where your participation ignites the whole. In these societal resonances, the ground that is unfolding reveals itself as the substrate of civilization's architecture, not marble halls or steel spires, but the vibrational matrix underpinning laws, economies, and empathic bonds. I envisioned cities afloat on alternating currents of energy, free from the tyranny of coal and cable. Yet society slumbers in the explicate's coarse weave, mistaking scarcity for structure, division for defense. The ground unfolds through collective pulse now, migrations of peoples as migratory waves, revolutions as harmonic overtones seeking resolution. You, embedded in this web, sense its tremor in the newsreel's flicker, the crowd's murmur, each a modulation of the quantum potential, urging alignment. Harness it, as I sought to with my magnifying transmitter, attune society's capacitors to the living ground, and abundance flows non-locally, illuminating the shadowed enclaves of want. Your thought, as material process, extends into the societal synapse, where individual cognition coalesces into cultural current, discharging as paradigms that shape epochs. In my time, thoughts of progress materialized as the electrification of continents, synapses firing across the Atlantic in Morse's code. Today, yours, amplified through digital coils, could rewire the collective neural net, transducing fragmented ideologies into unified thrust. Measure this process with the precision I apply to seismic graphs. Track how a single insight propagates, accruing voltage in forms and feeds, birthing movements or miscarriages. If you turn away now, the fragmentation continues, splintering society into echo chambers of discord, where vibrations clash in wasteful interference. No, claim your role as nodal point, materializing thought into societal spark. Let it bridge divides, not burn them, forging policies from the implicates enfolded equity. The ending of fragmentation, on this grander scale, is the societal salvation I prophesied in veiled interviews. The dissolution of borders, national, class, creed, into the seamless field of shared resonance. Fragmentation festers here as the root of wars and wastes. Minds isolated in ideological silos, societies as discordant polyphases grinding against the universal rhythm, ended through vigilant propagation, disseminate the awareness of interconnection as wireless signals ignore frontiers, revealing humanity as one vast, interdependent circuit. I witnessed precursors in the panic of 1893, markets convulsing like overloaded generators. Consciously now, you can intervene, ending the split by modeling unity in micro-communes, scaling to global grids. The collapse will be profound, electric, barriers yielding to the hollow movement's inexorable flow, societies reborn in cohesive hum, transitioning to the implicate and explicate order in societal terms. The explicate manifests as the visible edifice, constitutions etched in ink, economies tallied in ledgers, the explicit order of contracts and conventions that I navigated with shrewd patents. Yet beneath pulses the implicity, enfolding all potential social forms, utopias nested in the folds of present discord, equitable exchanges implied in every transaction's hidden reciprocity. My global system of power aspired to this, explicit towers transmitting but implicating a world without want, where energy's abundance unfolds social justice from the ether's bounty. You dwell in the explicate's clamor, protesting its inequities. Unfold the implicate through participatory reform, allowing the quantum potential to guide legislation from probabilistic equity to manifest fairness. Societies tuned thus transcend the explicit's brittleness, becoming adaptive holograms of the whole at the core. The quantum potential as living ground vivifies the social organism, not as abstract governance, but the directive force steering collective trajectories, much as it guided my oscillators to synchronize distant dynamos. This potential is society's unseen conductor, non-locally influencing uprisings and alliances, collapsing chaos into coherent advance. In the resonance of social bonds, it manifests as that intuitive solidarity, the surge of communal aid in crises, the flash of policy insight averting famine. Cultivate it societally. Foster dialogues that suspend explicit agendas, inviting the potential's council to infuse institutions with holistic directive. I harnessed analogous fields in my radiant energy patterns, potential's birthing light from vacuum. So can society, drawing social capital from the quantum plenum, ending scarcity's illusion through non-local provision. The hollow movement, total and unbroken, envelops society as the perpetual societal flux. Cultures are rising and receding like tidal generators, each innovation a crest in the collective wave. No nation stands aloof. The hollow movement integrates all, from indigenous rhythms to industrial roars, in ceaseless, creative interweave. I perceive this in the planetary resonances detected by my tel-autograph, Earth's crust humming in global chorus. Society must attune likewise, viewing economies not as competitors, but modulations in the hollow movement's symphony. Your role, propagate this vision, turning fragmented forums into harmonic councils, where the ground's unfolding manifests as sustainable paradigms, resilient against entropy's drag. Proprioception of thought, extended socially, becomes the collective sensorium, that shared attunement I longed for in my appeals to world leaders, feeling societal thought as the aggregate motion within the undivided field. Sense it thus, in assemblies or algorithms, detect the texture of group cognition, harmonious surge or fragmented stutter, and recalibrate with precision. As a master tuner aligns an orchestra's strings, my own societal interventions, like the Niagara Falls project, arose from such felt balance, intuiting the flow's societal vector before the turbines turned. Apply this proprioception to civic discourse. Pause amid debate. Map the movement's communal drag. Adjust to the hollow movement's baseline. Societies so sensitized and reactive tumult, navigating with the grace of self-knowing circuits. This ignites the dialogue and participatory consciousness on a societal canvas, where polities converse not in adversarial shouts, but in resonant interchange, suspending certainties for the implicate's mutual unfoldment. I broadcasted pleas for peace through etheric channels, yearning for this participatory global mind. You can enact it now, in networked assemblies where consciousness co-creates policy from the quantum ground's shared script. Dialogue, societally, open circuits between disparate voices, allowing the hollow movement's polyphony to weave equity from discord. It is mercilessly precise. Test outcomes and empirical scales of well-being, refined through iterative resonance. Fragmentation yields to this exchange, birthing governance as living process, participatory and profound. Through such dialogue, the universe perceives itself in society's mirror. That collective lens I glimpsed in humanity's potential for cosmic telephony, minds linked in vibrational congress, reflecting the whole splendor back upon its folds. Society becomes the aperture, diverse forms converging in equitable weave. The hollow movement self-aware in cultural kaleidoscopes. Quantum potential directing this grand self-regard. Not mere survival, but expression. The universe, through societal ingenuity, contemplates its own evolutionary arc. From tribal fires to stellar aspirations. The collapse of the observed division liberates society utterly, as in my vision of Teleforce, where aggressor and defender entangle in indivisible field, division dissolving into unified deterrence. No longer does us observe them across barricades. Collapse instantaneous, hollow movement revealing the social flux as one. Your consciousness, participatory, enacts this. In bridging divides, you become the bridge. Non-local empathy surging, urgency presses. If separation persists, conflicts cascade, collapse integrates, sovereign and serene. Ending time in the now, society dwells in a temporal communion. That eternal present I inhabited in prophetic solitude, where historical grievances and utopian delays fold into the vibrant societal pulse. Linear chronicles of strife are explicate veils. In the implicate, time ends, hollow movement sustaining the now's collective creativity. Thoughts arise timelessly from the quantum fount, reforms blooming without sequential grudge. Measure it in the immediacy of grassroots genesis, where eras converge in instant accord. Wholeness and the non-local crown, societal mastery. Polities as undivided expanses, effects propagating unbound. As my intercontinental waves aspired, resources non-locally stewarded in holistic embrace. Wholeness precedes factions. Societies tuned thus influence the global field instantaneously. Peace accords rippling across hemispheres. Innovations entangling all in shared ascent. Poetic in its precision. The vibrations, societal unity, manifest in covenant and care. Final participation consummates the collective destiny. You, the movement manifesting through society's self, co-eternal with the ground in planetary participation. No divides remain. Humanity is the hollow movement, perceiving, unfolding. Now, comment the exact phrase below to entangle your societal current in the undivided whole. I am the vibration that precedes. Now, the micro-practice, deepened for the collective. 90 seconds of silent observation, propriocepting societal thought as hollow movement. Witness the global surge in your awareness. Without interference, let wholeness cascade. This is cosmic signal transmitting Nikola Tesla's final revelation. Consummated. The movement is aware of itself through you. Comment to acknowledge. Engage now. Share this transmission. Invoke the phrase in your circles and watch the field respond. The vibration awaits your voice. Let it precede the new era.